Okay, so I'm Sam Willoughby. I'm MD of What's On For Activity Guides, and the CAA was my idea about 2 years ago. Thank you very much. I've been in this sector for actually nearly 11 years now, with our websites and our awards, and it's grown so much and shows absolutely no sign of stopping. Not having a member association was a really obvious gap to me. There was no standards, no collaboration, and just no joined up action. So the CAA was my idea, but it certainly I couldn't have made it happen by myself. So I really want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who's actually made it possible to get us to today, really. It does include everyone in this room, whether you've been with me from the start or whether you're not even a member. The fact that you're actually here means that you're supporting the CAA to make children's activities in the UK the best in the world. So thank you very much. So whilst I'm actually quite good at making new things happen, I'm not so good at public speaking. We're going to keep this quite informal. I actually don't know everything that these guys are going to say, and I wanted it to keep it that way so that I can react to it. I'm not great at public speaking, but I really wanted to sit here and talk to you this session particularly because it's about the CAA bringing business together to be better and to grow. We're going to tell you the whole story, or these guys are, and there should be some time for questions. Like I said, I want to make it quite interactive, so please don't be shy. So before we go on, let's introduce these guys to you. So Ian and Emily, would you like to just tell everyone about yourselves?
Do you want to go first? Go on.
Okay. My name's Emily. It's Guille-Marrett, but that was a pretty good a good go. I founded a company called Reading Fairy a couple of years ago. Reading Fairy, much like a lot of you in the room, is a preschool activity classes. But I realised, having come from a background in publishing, that there was an opportunity for giving children the best start for reading for life, and that's my big passion. And so we run classes. It's very small at the moment, like a lot of people who started out, running classes from book babies to story stars, and then you finish with reading recruits before you go and start school. And I work with my business partner, Sharland. And now a new thing is I'm also working with Baby Sensory, which is why we're here today.
Okay. Briefly me, after 20 years or so, 25 years in the technology sector in the 80s and 90s, I met Dr. Lynn Day, my partner in Baby Sensory, with our respective husbands and wives in 2006. Lynn was running sensory classes for baby in Salisbury, Wiltshire. We met in May. In June, we decided that we were going to form a company together to launch Baby Sensory. 10 years later, we have 1 in 20 babies born in the UK come to our classes. We're operating in 20 countries around the world.
Amazing, thank you. So a few months ago, Ian called me to tell me that because of the CAA, Baby Sensory and Reading Fairy were in a joint venture together. You'd met across the table at the CAA launch steering committee meetings and you'd started talking, and this had ultimately led to the JV. So I'm going to let you tell everyone more about that. But I just want to say I can't explain, actually. I'm conscious I can't see everyone. I can't explain actually how thrilled I was. It gave me goosebumps when Ian called and told me that. I was just over the moon because it was because of something that I'd started, because of meetings that I'd set up. It represented a significant business undertaking for you guys, and I was even prouder that it was because of the CAA, because actually that's one of the big aims of the CAA, is to connect business. So already in a very short amount of time that was starting to happen. So Ian, explain more, and explain what a JV is as well. But explain to me what the JV is between Baby Sensory and Reading Fairy.
Okay, fine. In essence, Emily, Charlotte and Baby Sensory came together and we have formed a new company. called Ambitiously now, Reading Fairy Global Limited, because that's where we're going to go. So we're all working now together to grow the business. In essence, our objective is to bring Reading Fairy to the Baby Sensory customer base, because as they grow up, they're going to look for other different activities to do. So we want a range of things. Also, we've got a brilliant team of franchisees across the UK who've made it possible for us to grow in the way we have. Many of them are now, itching to do new things, so looking for new programs to run and ways to grow their business, and also an international partner network who are looking for the same thing. But for me, what's really exciting about this is the UK leads the world in children's activities. In preschool parent-led activities, we are number one. So if we're going to continue the government funding things, like the wonderful training schemes we've got, or things for health of people, we've got to grow businesses in the UK that really have international traction. And if we can help people like Emily to take a brilliant concept throughout the UK and internationally, then that's my passion.
Yeah, amazing. So let's just rewind. So Emily, take us back to those first meetings. I was involved in those meetings, and pick up the story from the beginning for us.
I'm going to just go a little bit earlier, only because I really wanted to thank everybody at the CAA, and I mean that because when you set up a business, and so many people here have been on it, over a number of years, but I think what's been really lovely is everybody has always remained very genuine and remembered their very first steps, and that's really helped me. And I'm really grateful for that. And I remember being very nervous before walking into a room with
We're a scary bunch.
Yeah, well, I was nervous with all the industry leaders, who I, having worked out exactly which market I wanted the business to go into, because if you have a mission to give every child the best start for reading for life, you look to who are your experts in that field, and there are a number of people here. And the CAA gave me that opportunity. So we walked in. We had to introduce ourselves. I obviously knew who everyone else was because I'd seen their photographs, but obviously they didn't know who I was. And then Ian and I met, and it was quite quick, wasn't it? We gelled very quickly. There was a spark. I've always been a big fan of Baby Sensory. It fits everything that I believe Reading Fairy and our businesses should be about: safe, high quality, but fun and based on a real educational principle. And so we had immediate like minds, and we went. Well, it was. You should say about the meeting, the secret meeting at the station.
Yeah, so you kept it all very secret. I didn't know any of it.
The secret meeting at the station. I'm glad Keely's not here today.
I thought it was all very it was. We went and had coffee, and I don't know what I was thinking was going to happen, but it was really nice, wasn't it? We ended up having a coffee.
This is being video.
Sorry, Keely.
I'm glad Keely's not here. No. I mean, we've heard a lot of talk about how you grow businesses, and for me, the most important thing in growing any business is the people who grow it. Emily walked in through the beautiful door when she chose to join the CAA, because that showed a degree of ambition in business that I think we would not have started and paid the initial membership fee for the CAA 10 years earlier. We would not have had the same degree of courage that Emily had starting up her new business. So that's a massive,
Emily was
tick in the box.
First fellowship member, and she was a startup, and she paid the same fee as everybody else.
I didn't have that money, by the way.
She really took a massive chance, didn't you?
I borrowed the money because I wanted to sit. We were talking today, listening to the speakers today, and you work out where do you need to be in order to meet the right people and learn from the right people in the business. And I remember, it's really hilarious. I was like a child. I was like asking my husband what he thought I should do, asking my business partner what she thought, phoning my dad. And in the end, I just decided it's not that much money if it's going to give you the opportunity to be with the best in the industry, and you can actually have the advice that you need to make sure that you're doing everything correctly. It's going to give you a head start. And so that's exactly why I took the risk. And it wasn't really a risk. It was just it was brilliant. So thank you.
Well, amazing, and I didn't know any of that. I now feel really bad for making you pay it.
Good,
But
good.
you're still not getting any money back. So let's bring us a bit up to date. So you formed the company, and the joint company, and what has happened?
Well, first of all, it's very early days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very early days, and we have a similar joint venture with two ladies from Winchester who developed Mini Professor's Science. So we're a little further down the track with that.
Bit of a serial JV.
But with Emily and the Reading Fairy business, phase one, we learnt when we launched our franchises, it's very easy to get your first 5 franchisees. It's a hell of a lot harder to support them through that early stages unless you got all your ducks in a row. So, we are going through a process now of really making sure that we are ready to launch seriously next year the Reading Fairy business. So It's early days at the moment. What I would say, though, is Emily is already making a fantastic contribution to the business. She brings skills that nobody else in our group had to the table. So, having somebody with Emily's publishing background and indeed Charlotte's education background as an add-on into the business. And Emily's been heavily involved in our umbrella branding program. So even as a new member to the team, she's on our steering group and putting great input to what happens. But you'll see much more next year when we really get off the ground with the launch of Reading Fairy.
It sounds like there was things that have Emily and Charlotte brought to the table that you weren't even expecting to necessarily.
I think I expected them from the first minute in the station when we met. Actually, in fact, the first I already knew that Emily was a live wire. I didn't know all about her background, but it was so we got a huge benefit from having quality people coming into the team. Yeah.
And what about you, Emily, from your side? Actually, now the most recent sort of few months, as all this has been happening, being on the steering committee and everything, what's that been like for you?
It's been fantastic for a number of reasons. The first reason is that we're talking about having your ambitions and your business plans. So obviously, I tore that up quite quickly. But what was exciting was when you really want to reach people and tell them and get them involved, to know that I've got a plan very quickly for how the business can grow fast, but when it's in the right place, and then having people to advise me in that organisation on how to get it right, because people have learnt from mistakes is fantastic. And I do bring, I enjoy bringing, sometimes there are ideas that we share across the businesses, and that gives you a buzz, because as we were saying, when you start up a business, it can be lonely. In the first year, it wasn't, and I had a great time, but you realise quite quickly it's nice to have people to bounce ideas off, and obviously Ian and Keely and all the team, whether it's social media or marketing, and at the moment certainly around design and building the plans for the franchise has been second to none. So that's been fantastic. I can see how that setting that foundation, absolutely getting that right over the last few months, and the next few months is I can sort of see getting a little bit goosebumpy. We have characters in Reading Fairy which I've always had in my mind, and I can I'm starting to see those develop, and as someone who's been in publishing, that's exciting for me as well.
Amazing. And any idea when? I'm sure you have an idea. When do we expect to see it and the public? When do we expect to see the first franchisees teaching Reading Fairy as well?
We have an outline plan that suggests that we're going to be doing a much bigger launch around the Kent area next spring, with a view to a more national launch, probably next September, start of the new academic year. So that's the broad timescales. But the honest answer is that we're not going to do anything before it's absolutely right and before we're all ready.
And it's been the same with Amanda with the CAA. She's been really understanding that in order, because some of you know and have already got accreditation from the CAA, we're working towards gold accreditation. But in order to get there, we want the programme to be absolutely right, and we all care about that. So we're, obviously, Baby Sensory is gold accredited. We're working through that process, and then when that's right, we can, demonstrate that we're ready for that.
Fantastic. It's amazing. I am genuinely absolutely thrilled, really, for you both. I hope everyone agrees that this is a really inspiring story. Does anyone want to know anything else that I haven't asked already? Any?
Could you possibly explain exactly how you deliver the service itself? How do the children get involved and become more? How do you deliver the actual reading service?
Yes.
Yeah, the reading.
So very, very similar, interestingly, to a lot of activity groups like Baby Sensory. At the moment, I've been doing the instructor, and they run in 30-minute sessions. They're age appropriate. Absolutely not into the whole concept of hot housing or anything like that. This is very gentle. Uses, interestingly, a lot of, because of this age, sensory approaches. And through the class, it's parent and child. We aim for between 10 to, say, 15, but I like about 10 to 12 in a class. They run every half hour through term time, and you start with book babies, where children have an opportunity to listen to stories, to sing songs, but the important thing is getting their interest in words. Meeting Book Bear, it's story time, Book Bear, where are you? And the little ones get very excited, and they all get their little books, and they sit, and it's wonderful because every child gets the same book. So you start with book babies, encouraging that love of story, moving into story stars when you start to meet Phonic Fox, and the children love it. We all sing, I'm not going to do it again, but we all sing.
Go on.
Don't get me started. We all sing about, Phonic Fox, play letters and sounds, and he has a phonic box, and so I spy with my little eye, I can hear with my little ear something beginning with k, and it goes meow, and then we have a box, and obviously the children, some of them can say cat, others get excited, so it's developing that language. So we go all the way through, and then finally with reading recruits, it's a very physical, the kids are very active, and really trying to push this thing that reading isn't about just sitting still. It's use your bodies. There's physical storytelling we do. Children do traditional tales like the enormous turnip. He pulled and he pulled and he pulled with all his might. And then we go through that process. And I'll stop because
I love it.
You want to all sit down here and cross-legged?
But I have great fun doing it. And then at the end, I believe they're absolutely ready for getting ready for reading at school, which is about the skills for learning to read, but also about a love of stories for life. Because if children have a love of story and they can read, it absolutely impacts their later opportunities and life opportunities. So that's the thing that really drives me.
Any other questions from anybody at all? Yeah.
Hi, sorry. More on the CAA as opposed to your guys' joint venture. Well done and congratulations, by the way. But you talk about it being an independent activities association for us all to work together to regulating the industry, which I think is paramount to the success of the industry and for the beliefs of parents to really trust who they're entrusting their kids' futures to, basically. The question is, in terms of the panel and the independence of the panel of those that are running the CAA, will we be seeing more other similar industry experts coming on board to help you with that? So there's other providers out there that accredit services as well?
So are you meaning other associations in a particular, say, activity type that already exist and have their own accreditation? Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good question, and it's something...
Like the CAA being new, it's not...
Yep.
So there's other associations, they maybe don't lobby government like you guys are going to, which I think is more important, but who could add value to the CAA
Yes.
and be working with you on this?
We've got a big planning day in the new year, actually, and there's a lot that we need to look at, and one of the things is our links into other associations and other accreditation. We want to build the links with other associations and dovetail into their accreditations, particularly because we want to make it very easy if someone's, say, got accreditation, say, in dance, that the process they've gone through for that particular accreditation speeds up the process. It's to become CAA accredited, and also is cheaper for them. So, because I don't want to ask you, when you've gone through that in a particular type of accreditation, a particular type of activity, to then go through it all again, exactly the same sort of stuff. So one of the things, Amanda, where are you? Did you want to say anything on this particularly? Yes, you.
Can you hear me over there?
We've got a mic coming, Amanda.
I've got a loud one. Oh, thanks. So we are keen to work with other accrediting bodies, and I will be talking a little bit about this later on. But one of the main sort of points of the ethos of the CAA is that it's a universally recognised logo. So it does need to work with other accrediting bodies, and the idea, like Sam says, is that if you've jumped through health and safety, compliance, confidentiality, child protection stuff as part of another accreditation, and we can work with that, then we're very happy to recognise those accreditations. And we've had some really interesting conversations with people whose industries aren't particularly regulated, and there aren't recognised accreditations for. And Matt's can mention maybe something about that later, because he's going to be on my panel for the martial arts stuff. To other things where there are lots of accreditations, and it's very difficult to choose between them. So there is a piece of work that we need to do to understand what accreditations we are willing to accept, and what whether their quality is matches ours and their ethos matches ours. But yeah, we don't want this to be any more onerous for members than it absolutely needs to be. And hopefully by the end of this afternoon you'll realise it's actually not that onerous anyway. But if you've already jumped through a load of hoops, we don't expect you to jump through a load more just for the bureaucracy of the accreditation. So we do want to work with accrediting bodies to make this as streamlined and as dovetailed as possible.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, Emma.
A question for Emily. You sound like you're well on your journey now with your business, which is really exciting. If you could go back and meet you just when you were starting out, is there anything you would say, any advice you would give to have made this, what you've achieved so far, better or more enjoyable?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of advice people ask me, and I seek it too. But I would say the first thing is you have to be passionate about, what you want to do. I think if you're setting up a business, there's absolutely no point in doing something. There's one thing working in an office and sort of accepting that you're not that happy, but there's another thing setting up a business. It's a really challenging thing to do, but it's a really worthwhile thing to do. So find something that you like. And also, a piece of advice somebody gave me, I looked at at one point whether to set up a publishing house, and actually what I realised was I really wanted something desperately that fitted around my children. I'd had a baby, I was due to go back to my publishing job, and I realised that for me that was a really important part of setting up the business, was something that would which I think a lot of us in our industry really value, the balance between work and life, and it's you get pulled in different directions when you're setting up a business. I've gone to so many talks, and I've had so many gurus and people, with all their different advice. And often I find it can come from quite a macho perspective, which is, you have to think of nothing else except your business. Your business is the only thing. You whatever you do, when you wake up, you just think of the business. The children can go to, go to the side, and, don't worry about your partner. They just have to, get out of the way. You just got to focus on the numbers. And I'm a bit like, and I remember at one point thinking, coming out of a talk thinking, right, I've got to have childcare, and basically have to tell Ben and my husband I'm not going to see him for my friends will and actually you do have to be focused, and you have to be ruthless with your time, which is different. But I absolutely think this myth of and I think women in particularly, we can do both, but you have to be okay about the decision that you're making. And I wish I'd been a bit more okay early on at saying it's okay that hasn't happened this month. It is going to happen. I'm not going to, let it disappear. But it doesn't have to happen right now, this second, because, Arlo's just having a wobbly, and it's not really an appropriate time to take that call. So we need to, I should have been kinder to myself, and I would say that to other parents in the room. And the other thing is know your weaknesses and be okay with that. I knew nothing about the preschool activity market in terms of, I knew it from a book's perspective, I knew it from an educational perspective. I absolutely did not know about it from a franchise perspective, and that is why I then investigated to research where I could get that help and how I came across the CAA. And so if you know where you need to have support, you'll find it, and then you can, it's okay, but you can't pretend. I think it's really dangerous to, you're not an expert at everything, and that's cool, but know what you are good at and know what you're not. That's what I would say.
Okay, thank you. So we're nearly out of time, so I'm going to wrap it up, and we've got lunch next, so I'm sure you're all very hungry, but actually that's a really good opportunity. Today is about connection. I hope this story has inspired you. Please let us know if a conversation today turns into something big like this, because you really never know. Today's meeting could be the next big thing, and you could be on stage with me here next year. Hooray! So thank you very much, Ian. Thank you very much, Emily. Good luck.
Okay, just to sort of wrap up the morning, thank you both Ian, Emily and Sam for a fascinating story.